I love seeing all these Indiana people. I used to live in Greensburg, Indiana. Fun fact. But if you haven't been on this call before, please introduce yourself. We're super excited how this call is continuing to grow. Today we have Mary for Mary's Motivation Monday. So I am going to turn it over to her.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here. You know, you would think that this is, well, I should start off by saying this is the last live community conversation for 2022. We're going to be taking a break after this, and then we'll be starting up again in January. But we didn't want to leave you without anything. So there are lots of really great community conversations that have been recorded and are available for you to watch at your leisure, along with any of the candid conversations that Maddie's Fund has put together. And I want to put in a plug for Wednesday's candid conversation with Bobby Mann and Miss Shakayla Brown from Humane Rescue Alliance. I think it should be just a really incredible way to end 2022, and I would encourage you all to sign up for it. So you would think that because this is the last one, we were going to be super inspiring and everything was going to be fine and everything is going to be great. But the reality is the world doesn't really cooperate like that. At least I haven't found it to be like that. What we have found is that there is a disease outbreak out there of canine flu, and we have folks from Operation Kindness with Jamison. We have someone from, I think Melissa Weber is here, and some of her people from Dallas Animal Services. And we have Dr. Sandra Newbury here, who's going to talk to us about how do we confront an outbreak, and that these are the times when we need to be as transparent as possible. We need to ask for help because the help will be given to all of us. There's so many resources out there that when this happens, and we know it happens because you all operate shelters. Shelters have a certain amount of confinement. Confinement is the breeding ground for disease outbreaks. And this is a different kind of disease outbreak, I think, as Ed Jamison mentioned, and something I'd read. It's not like we can vaccinate our way through this one. So some other things are happening that we'll find out about this morning, and that I'm so grateful that everybody is here. So normally I would drop some F-bombs, or I would say something super inspiring. And to be honest with you guys, I think some of you know that I lost my husband in March. And so it feels different. The world feels different. The outlook I have feels different. Lots more loss and sadness. And the reality of it is I'm not the only person on this call that has experienced those things. So many of us have gone through similar types of grief and mourning. And I think it's being able to, I'd like to say get through it, but actually it's not. It's sort of like, you know, on March 14th, my world really significantly changed. And it's helped me to recognize the fact that the thing that can get me through is really the connections that I have in my life, that the grief that I hold, the loss and the sadness that I hold is always going to be there. But what can change is the life that I surround that with. And it's because of all of you, it's because of the work that we do, that finding those connections and being able to feel like my world can still be expanded when my person is no longer here is really the thing that inspires me to get out of bed in the morning, plus 3 dogs that absolutely demand to be fed and walked on a schedule that I should have probably hired a behaviorist a long time ago, but I can tell you after waking up 5 times in the middle of the night to let them go out, and not for peeing, but just for sniffing, I realized that I've totally lost control of this situation with these 3 dogs, some of which might be right behind me. But it's being able to laugh at those kinds of things and feel like there is purpose to go forward, I think is so important. As animal people, as I said many, many times, thanks to Jim Tedford, we're animal people. We can do anything. And that is so true, you all. But one of the things that I am most heartened about is the way that so many of us have embraced sort of a new directive with animal welfare. and recognizing that it's not just the animals, but it's the people who are connected to them that we have to actually embrace in ways that we haven't done before. So as we end 2022 in the next few weeks, I hope that we think about sort of what our missions will be as we move forward with a world that is constantly changing, with sadness, loss, laughter, all of it that we carry with us and we move forward with, to make ourselves not just better human beings, but to really, I think, to try to make a difference in the worlds that we occupy. So Allison, Bobby, Ariel, Charlotte, wait, I have my list. Renana, Claire, Shannon, Irene, and Charlotte. I said probably Charlotte twice. All of you all that have made up the steering committee for these calls, I want to thank you, because this has been such a wonderful opportunity for over 200 of us each week to come together. So with that, I'm out. Thank you all. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday, whatever you celebrate, and I hope you all have a very safe New Year. Thank you.
Hey, Mary, I know that I can speak for the entire call, everybody on this call, and sharing our love for you, and hopefully that you realize the amount of people and pets that you have touched. I know it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. You are a badass in this industry. You do what's right, no matter how hard it's going to be. We all know you're not scared to say what needs to be said, and that is really refreshing. So nobody can replace the loss that you had, but I hope that at least there can, it can fill some knowing that everybody on this call knows what a badass you are and how much you care for people and their pets, and we all mean that from the bottom of our hearts.
And I think we all want to see your dogs now too.
Okay, well, hopefully one of these calls we can schedule a guest appearance from Mary's dogs, because I too want to see them. And yes, Mary, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to build this community. I think that this has meant so much to so many of us, and we are just so grateful. We also are continuing to be grateful because I know that Maddie's is here to give us some money. Is that right, Irene? Is it the grant winners time?
Yes, but Kelly Clardy will be announcing our winners today.
Amazing. Kelly,
Yes.
Turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ariel. And Mary, thank you so much for your motivation this morning. We're sending you all the love and all the hugs. And I'm sure most of us, I think we're in tears listening to you. So sending you all the love. So I am really excited today because I get to announce not one, but two of our grant giveaway results from November. So first up, I'm going to announce our Community Conversations winners. So just as a reminder, or for those of you who are brand new and maybe don't know, we give away $10,000 every month to those who listen on demand or who watch live to this call. You can enter to win. I know Irene put the link. Oh, you just put the link in the chat. Irene, thank you so much. So you want to enter to win by filling out, clicking on the link and filling that out. And let me share my screen real quick and we will get the winners announced. All right. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we have 10 winners of $1,000 each. Susan Austin, Humane Society for Boone County. Edward Box, Bayou Animal Services. Laura Cuervo, Universidad Nacional de Colombia. Pardon my very bad Spanish there. Natalie Davis of Bannock Feral Friends, Genevieve Frederick, Feeding Pets of the Homeless, Nancy Haynes, Mohawk Hudson Humane Society, Karina Lozano, Meridian Canine Rescue, Nicole Ryan, Las Vegas Valley Humane Society, Valerie Saldana, Pet Adoption Network, and Norma Wallace, Paws Unite People. So congratulations to the 10 of you for winning our Community Conversations giveaways. I also have an announcement of the first Maddie's Pet Forum monthly grant winner. So for the month of November is who we're announcing. And if you haven't heard about that grant opportunity yet, I'm going to drop the link in the chat, but we are giving away $3,000 every month to one lucky participant on Maddie's Pet Forum. So the November winner is Jill Gilbert from Lee County Humane Society in Alabama. So congratulations. If any of the winners are on right now, real quick, if you want to unmute and say hi and let us know that you're here, we can say hey.
Hey, I'm Susan Austin from the Humane Society for Boone County, and this has been such a fantastic method for me to connect with folks all this time, and I can't thank you enough. And we had such a bad Giving Tuesday. This is such a blessing, so thank you.
Oh, thank you for all that you do, Susan. We're glad you're here with us. All right, if no one else is on, we can, I'll pass it back over to Ariel and Ed.
All right, well, now I believe it's time for national updates. And Katie, I see that you have your hand up. Did you have something? Nope, maybe it was an accident. Okay, national updates. What's going on?
I have a national update. As part of the Human Animal Support Services Project, we completed our first, we have two national projects that we completed with our pilot shelters, and one I'm super excited about, the first 48, which comes complete with a debrief booklet for each one of our shelters. And so you will be seeing us publish information on how that program went and ways for people across the country to implement it at their shelter. The first 48 is pretty much a program where you're asked, citizens are asked to keep animals that they want to turn into the shelter for 48 hours before they turn it in. And we got some tremendous results. So I'm very excited about that.
I have a national update as well, and I'm excited to go right after Vincent. Hi, Vincent. This is Jennifer Komis from the Humane Society in the United States. And I just wanted to remind everybody that we are also sharing an opportunity for some scholarships to Animal Care Expo. We have multiple attempts or multiple kinds of scholarships that people can attempt to secure. So I'm going to share in the chat the links to apply for those scholarships. Expo will be held April 3rd through 6th of the coming year, and scholarship deadline is January 4th. So we'd love to have as many people apply for those as we can to make sure you can come if you'd like to attend. Thanks.
I would also like to let everyone know we're sending out a save the date for the next challenge, which is there are 22 collaborating partners for it is called Open Arms. And so the promotion period will start in January and the application period will be the last week of January. But I just wanted to give you the heads up on the save the date will be coming. If you're not signed up for any emails, please do so with Maddie's Fund or any of the other collaborating partners, and you'll be able to see all of them on the website. Many are on this call. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Nichols, and I'm from the Animal Hospice Group. We're now international with 2 new students. We do education and support via our helpline. that is sure to be launching here in a few months. I wanted to let you all know that we're putting together educational program or video for people just like you in the shelter, rescue, and sanctuary world. That will be on care for our senior, ill, frail, and dying animals. So please sign up. I'll put our link in the chat. Check us out and sign up for a mailing list to be one of the first to hear when that's released. Thanks a lot. And happy winter holidays to you all.
Awesome. Any other national updates? All right. Does not sound like it. All right. We got anything else, Ariel, before we jump into it?
No, I can turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you. And again, thanks to Maddie's. This forum is really a great opportunity to get information to people doing the same type of work. And I'm fortunate enough being on the steering committee. This topic that came up or that we're going to talk about today, it hit us at Operation Kindness fast. It's something I hadn't honestly even thought about since I was up in Cleveland, and Chicago was dealing with it in 2015, 16. Hardly anybody vaccinates for it down here in the South. It's just not something that was really that prevalent. In early November, something just started to be off with some of our animals. We specialize in bringing in sick and injured animals. So that was nothing new to see, all right, a little bit more upper respiratory type things, but something was different about this. And as I started getting reports, it's like, hey, we've got 4 suspected. All right, now it's 8. Now it's 30. Now it's 80. And it just like wildfire absolutely spread through our shelter at Operation Kindness. We were fortunate enough that we reached out very quickly to Dr. Newbury and her team at the University of Wisconsin, and they were just absolutely amazing on helping to guide my team. And then we were also extremely fortunate that part of the plan on this was to do a lot of testing, which we don't always do that in the shelter world. You have distemper. Hey, you assume you have some distemper. You're working on that or whatever, but it was very, very critical. And as the CEO for Operation Kindness, of course, we'll end up paying whatever needs to be paid, but we were freaking out over the number of tests we were going to need to do. And Maddie's did step up to help fund so that we could test properly throughout this situation. And I think that it's money well spent, that it helped us to really know which animals were improving and not improving. It also made us with confidence be able to talk to the public when we did start to make dogs available again. And it helped us learn some other things, good and not so good, that was happening throughout the population in our animals. So we have 3 amazing people that are going to be sharing in this discussion. Dr. Newbury from the University of Wisconsin. We have Heather Dolson, who is the Vice President of Lifesaving Operations at Operation Kindness, and Sarah Sheek from Dallas Animal Services, who is the Manager of Community Engagement. All 3 were really the heads in their organization that really did a bunch of the heavy lifting to navigate through these things. So thank you all for being on this call. We are expecting that there will probably be a lot of questions throughout this, which is terrific. Throw them into the chat. And then assuming we have time at the end, we'll also take any questions. But I reached out to the steering committee and said, hey, is this a topic that we would want to talk about on a Monday call? And they very resoundingly said, yes, these are the type of things that pop up. They can really, really shut down animal flow and animal movement throughout a shelter. And so we feel pretty confident that this is going to be a very worthwhile discussion. And we'll take any engagement that that anybody wants to bring into it. So with that, let me see here. I think I am going to start with Dr. Newbury. Thank you so much for being here. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the hands-on work that you and your team did with us. Can you tell us about what you're seeing across the country right now as it relates to CIV?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. First thing I wanted to say is all of you, the shelters that you see here, these 2 shelters from Dallas, have been just crushing it with the infectious disease work that they're doing. And so they did, for your inspirational Monday, they've just done an incredible job. And it's really impressive. And I hope that it inspires you all to like really reach out and get help and make plans and do what you can. Cause I have a feeling that they may have even like surprised themselves a little bit with how great they did. Both of them. And so just want to say that. And Maddie's Fund, always just so much thanks to you, because they make the work that we do with you so much better and easier for us to do when they can fund the testing that we need. And Maddie's has been such a reliable partner for us in our infectious disease work and actually all the work we do in our program. So we always are just so incredibly grateful for that. So influenza, the things that we talked to a woman from the New York Times who wrote a nice article, and it was a really nice kind of calm article about canine influenza. And one of the things she asked me when we were done talking was if I had anything else. And she was like, what's your main message that you want to send to people? And I was like, don't panic. And so what's hard is what Ed's describing is what you see with canine influenza. Like, we can pretty much tell if you call us and you're asking us and you think you have influenza, we can usually tell within just a few minutes of that conversation whether you actually have influenza or not. Like if you say, well, I just have a couple of sick dogs and it's been that way for a week, the likelihood of you having influenza is pretty low. But with what Ed described, that's what we usually see. And so I've always called it a tidal wave. And the reason that I call it that is because it comes crashing in. And then if you have the ability to close your shelter, or you have the ability to stop what I call adding fuel to the fire, so keeping susceptible dogs, which is most dogs, from becoming exposed, it goes out almost as fast as it came in. Not quite as fast, but it comes crashing in, and then you can just watch it like go away. If you can't stop that cycle of adding new dogs, so new dogs become exposed, then it can just go on for such an incredibly long time and be really awful. The good news is that the virus that we saw in Chicago, so we work with Colin Parrish's lab at Cornell, and they've done a lot of work. We send them samples and they look at the genetics of the virus, and they've got all these maps and trees, and you can see the origin for the virus each time we see new outbreaks. And what I want to be clear is that it's not the same virus. So the virus that we saw initially in Chicago, for whatever reason, that was the first introduction that we recognized into the United States. And that virus was particularly horrid. And one of the reasons that it became so problematic is that we really, at the beginning, we thought it wasn't flu, that there were tests being run for H3N8 influenza, which was the influenza that we knew. And those tests were coming back negative. So people in Chicago thought it wasn't flu until we started getting more curious about it. And then we said, actually, well, let's test for just influenza A. And those tests came back positive. And then we realized it was a different kind of influenza. So the influenza that we've seen circulating is called H3N2 influenza. But each time it shows up, it's a little bit different. And the one that we saw in Chicago made dogs really, really, really sick, and it spread like wildfire. And what we've seen since then is that the other introductions, and so we've seen repeated introductions, and we know that by looking at the genetics of the virus, seem to be a little bit less pathogenic. They make dogs a little bit less sick, and they seem to be a little less contagious. And so they're a little bit easier to control. And so we have some great case studies. We're actually working on some papers of these. We hope, here's 2 more examples, where this virus can actually be controlled. We worked with 10 different shelters in Chicago, and none of those shelters were able to control the virus within their shelter and have it not spread. Partly it was because it was so much in the community already before it ever got to the shelters. It was all over the community, but also we know that the virus itself was just more infectious. So that's good news, really good news, right? That the virus that you're seeing now is a little bit like the dogs are getting sick. I'm not minimizing that they're getting sick, but they're not getting as sick as the dogs were in Chicago. The other really good piece of information is that it's infrequent that dogs would die from getting influenza. It's not like what we see with canine distemper or parvo or things like that. It's very uncommon. And in Chicago, we saw literally only about a handful of dogs who died. And those dogs, almost all of them had some kind of underlying condition. But it's not as though it doesn't cause harm, because it does. And it like when we look at the pathology in the dogs who did die, causes really major harm to their lungs. The dogs that were in Chicago had a really hard time getting over it. Like once they had this really bad cough, all their other clinical signs would resolve, but they would keep this cough for a really long time. And what we're seeing now is that they resolve much better, right? Like most of your dogs, and we'll hear from you guys, but the dogs are recovering much better from these newer variants that we're seeing now. I think that's what I have to say until I'm curious to see. I mean, I'm curious to have you guys talk a little bit about your experience with this. And what's really interesting for all of y'all who are here is that these two shelters, they're very different. They have very different sort of flow through into their organizations. And we chose completely different strategies for trying to control the virus in these two organizations. So it's really cool, but I think it's going to work in both cases.
Yep. Thank you, Doc. We'll get back to you here. I've got a question for, it's going to be for both Sarah and Heather, and probably Heather first on this. Can you give us some background on how the disease was discovered at the shelter and the first steps that Operation Kindness took once it was discovered? And then Sarah, I'm going to have you answer the same thing after.
Sure. So upon initial onset of symptoms, we tested some of the more severe cases for distemper, but otherwise we really suspected the normal respiratory infections, and we isolated these dogs in one of our medical holdings. When they didn't respond to treatment, and as Ed mentioned, we started seeing more symptomatic dogs pop up, we began sending samples for full respiratory PCRs. The first couple came back with the expected mycoplasma, but then our first positive came back for canine influenza. We have exposure protocols for parvo, panleuk, and distemper. We were not prepared for influenza. By the time we received the positive result, our isolation wards were full of coughing dogs. So pretty quickly, we stopped dog intake and we made a plan to close off one of our adoptable dog rooms to house the overflow of coughing dogs. This room was full in a matter of days. So as dogs continued to break and we had nowhere to move them, sooner or later, we knew our adoptable rooms were going to become exposed and we had to shut down. We had to suspend dog adoptions. By that time, we were frantically researching canine influenza, trying to figure out the road ahead of us when we came across an article written by UC Davis. The article was extremely eye-opening, but it also referred us to the University of Wisconsin's Shelter Medicine program for more information and advice. And they responded to us immediately, met with us the next day, and cannot thank them enough. They really supported us through this outbreak.
And Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, so we knew that it was in the community because OPK was going through it as well. So I would say in the week leading up to Thanksgiving, we were starting to notice an uptick in upper respiratory. And on Black Friday, we realized that we needed to we already had our contagious ward, but we needed to turn a second room into a contagious ward, which was a red flag. We had already been spot testing and up to that point, all of the tests had come back negative for canine influenza. But on that Friday, we were starting to hear that honking cough, and it was like in stereo. It was coming from every direction. And so we kind of scrambled on Friday to make sure that we had a good plan in place for the weekend. And we were waiting. We started upping our testing as well, testing any dog that had that honking cough. We were reaching out to OPK to ask kind of for advice on what they had been doing. Heather very kindly connected us to Dr. Newbury and her team, and we set up a call for the following Tuesday, which on that Monday, we got back our first 2 positives. And so we were putting together educational material for the public. We couldn't close intake. And so we knew we had to continue to find positive outcomes, which meant we had to make sure that we were being very transparent about what was happening in the building, and educating the public on, if you are taking this into your home, here's how to isolate. We started putting together marketing materials about doggy distancing and preparing our fosters for helping to isolate these dogs in their home as well. And it spread like wildfire. So every batch of tests we got back after that, it was more and more until pretty much every room in the shelter did have some positives in it.
Yeah, I think it's important if for those who don't know, I happen to have a lot of experience with both of these shelters, currently being at Operation Kindness. We are a limited admission, about 6,000 animals a year come in, heavily specialized in medical. But like we said, this thing just spread so fast that every room ended up with it. And so the way that, we were able to manage a lot did have to do with how we handled intake, and quite frankly, was lack thereof. We were able to shut down dog intake while we dealt with this. Sarah, on the other hand, works for one of the largest municipal shelters in the country. DAS pre-COVID was just shy of 40,000 animals coming in. I believe you're in the mid 20,000s, right now. So these are 2 vastly different setups on how you have to try to navigate through a situation like this. So moving into the next question, how about we'll jump with you, Sarah, because you touched on this a bit. Can you speak a bit about how your organization, how you communicated internally regarding the situation? How did you communicate in your organization, notify the community about the situation? And then obviously there's a lot of concerns that come with that once you start being transparent and talking about things.
Yeah, so as soon as we realized we had those 2 positives, we put together some materials for the public. We had an announcement that went up on our website, like a notice to the public with the information that we had it in the building, but also some materials about how to, if they had a sick dog in their home, what to do. We put out specific materials to our fosters, our volunteers, and our rescue partners as well, kind of geared at those specific audiences. And internally, our team was meeting on a daily basis. For a while, those meetings were on a daily basis with Dr. Newbury and her team, coming up with a plan for a clean break. And then we put out additional marketing and educational materials throughout the week as we were able to develop more and more.
Heather?
Sure. So as it's been mentioned, transparency was key. So we also, we sent messages to our volunteer and foster teams, letting them know what we had found in the shelter and how they could continue to help and support without risking exposure to our contagious population. We posted on, for the community, we posted information on our website regarding canine influenza, as well as blog and social posts, just with just more communicating what this is, what it is that we have, and what we're doing. Internal communication, we were meeting to start with daily, and then 2 to 3 times weekly. It got a bit tricky as the plan continuously evolved and trying to keep everyone in the organization in the loop and on the same page. So if one person from one shift just happened to miss today's communication, there was bound to be a dog that was moved into the wrong room and creating possible unnecessary exposure from there. So we ended up pulling all of our staff together and had an all staff meeting to explain what we were dealing with and how they could expect updates to be communicated moving forward. And lastly, the communication, we did hear some concerns as we began to reopen dog adoptions. But again, thanks to the testing being done by University of Wisconsin, we were able to assure adopters that the available dogs had all tested negative, and all the dogs housed in the room with them had also tested negative, making it just extremely unlikely that they're shedding the virus.
Yeah, and I do know that even on the internal communication, we had to call a special staff meeting to really let the staff know how serious this was. Again, not serious from the standpoint that we thought that we were going to lose animals, but serious that we weren't going to get them cleared, and we were going to the likelihood of not infecting even more uninfected animals was real. So we had people in parts of our building that never wear PPE. They're in adoptable areas, and it's just not their thing. Our whole medical area, everybody's always all geared up, and we really had to internally, get this across that, hey, we're not going to work through this unless we take, all of these measures that we're doing. And sometimes I find it's the communication internal can be harder than the external communication. I know I will also throw in there that we very quickly at Operation Kindness said that we need to be transparent. We need to make sure we get this information out. We are entering our busiest adoption time of the year. We have a huge gala that we always have puppies and kittens at, and we couldn't take any puppies there. So I'm on mic at a gala having to talk about why we don't have dogs at that event. And it's really worked out. And if we can be of any help to particularly our municipal partners, that sometimes, be it the politicians, the elected officials, city management can kind of try to, steamroll you over and say something that's, is not actual truth. If, any of these stories in the New York Times or anything like that, you're able to point to, can help you talk about this and why you might have to take some extreme measures, or you're going to be dealing with this for months and months and months, if not for years and years. Dr. Newbury, what are some of the best practices that you'd recommend to prevent and manage CIV?
That's a great question. The biggest thing I would say is disease recognition. And that's so important for everything that I kind of love it, because even if you're thinking about influenza, it's going to make things better for everything else too. And so these guys both know that one of the things I recommended for them was like monitoring their population at least 3 times a day. And I hope that for many of you, you're doing it at least once a day. But if you can get to once a day, I'm cheering you on. If you can get to twice a day, it's even better, even when you're not having an outbreak. Because the best thing is, as soon as you see that an animal is sick and you respond, that's going to make a huge difference in your population. And one of the things that happens, and I'm going to just be honest about it, is that so often we're working beyond our capacity, like to be able to provide the kind of care that we want, or our shelter is so full of animals that we don't even have an empty place where we can move sick dogs. And so working within your ability to provide the kind of care that you want is the other big one. So monitoring animals for illness, and then being able to actually respond when you're seeing illness. Those are the 2 biggest ones. And monitoring right from the point of intake is really important. But what a lot of places do is they monitor at intake, but then once the animal's in their shelter, they're not really noting. And so it can be and should be, it's like everybody's job in the shelter to look at animals. And one of the things I talk about a lot is stop before you go. Like every time you're going to interact with an animal, before you do it, give them a little thoughtful look over and just see, do they look sick? Is there anything in their cage that might alert you to the fact that they're sick? because the sooner that you recognize illness in that particular animal and respond to it, it's better for that particular animal and it's better for everyone in the shelter as well. So those are really my two biggies, and those are for any infectious disease, but especially flu. One of the things that I told both of these shelters, and I would say it's probably one of the first things I cover whenever I'm talking to a shelter where you have flu, is to try as hard as you can. Like, we're going to try as hard as you can to get rid of it. But that in some cases, it just won't work. And I put some stuff in the chat so that you guys understand why not. It's just like COVID in many ways. These conversations have gotten so much easier now that we've all been through this introduction of a novel virus into our communities, right? That we know we can do all the precautions in the world, and some people still get COVID, right? And that's how flu is going to work too, because it's new. And so there isn't that kind of immunity. I can't say just use this vaccine and everything will be fine. So it's all about recognition, trying to separate sick animals from healthy animals. But it's also about the understanding that sometimes it's going to show up, it's going to whip through a shelter, and it's not because that shelter did something wrong. It's just the way flu works.
Yeah, we were, throughout my counterparts throughout the state of Texas, we were hearing more from the private industry about seeing this. So the doggy daycares, the boarding facilities. So that's what, the potential for this really, really taking off, especially in a big metropolis like the, DFW, and everything in Texas is huge. And you can't vaccinate your way out of this, or else we would just get our community teams out there, when we're already trying to vaccinate for crazy against parvo and distemper. And we knew that this was not going to be the answer here. With all of this, and we appreciate everybody's time. Sarah, tell us about lessons learned. What lessons has DAS learned from this? And what's the state of CIV right now at DAS?
Yeah. So, in order to get to a clean break, we knew that we needed to clear multiple rooms of the shelter so that we had an area for unexposed population. And that was what we did this weekend. We did a huge push to get 150 dogs out of the shelter. And we actually got 160 out to foster, adopt, or rescue pulls. So we exceeded our goal, which was really exciting. We have 30 more that have outcomes that'll be leaving this week. So that'll help us continue to clear out, because there are a lot more rooms to clear, so that we have the shelter kind of fully unexposed again. And I feel like one of the biggest lessons last week, when we first realized that we had positives in the building, we were hoping to start our clean break last weekend. We wanted to just push through and make it happen so that we didn't continue infecting incoming population. And we were having meetings kind of throughout the week. And finally on Thursday, someone said in a meeting, can we do this weekend? Are we going to be ready? And the answer was no. And it was really hard to make the decision to wait, knowing that other dogs were going to get sick. But we also knew we only had one shot at getting the community to show up in the numbers that we needed them to get a true clean break. And that it was going to take a lot more time to get the word out, to get our press release together, all the marketing, all the logistics of what a clean break was going to look like in the shelter. And so we took the week to really prepare. And I'm so glad we did, because it was a lot of hours of preparing, and it could not have been accomplished in the 2 days that we had left. And
Sarah, can I say something about that just for a sec? So I think I just want to highlight that that's a really important thing, that the shelters were in two really different places. And I think the fact, we actually talked a lot about how long will it take you to do this? And we talked about the risk of trying to go forward before they were ready. And it was a hard choice to make, to really recognize this is in the shelter, but we're going to just kind of keep moving forward until we're ready. Because if they had tried and failed and then had to try again, that would be much harder. And I think what we see with their, the success of their marketing and all of that, from our perspective, we really felt so optimistic watching the level of planning that was going into it. And especially even working with their staff, like if they had gone to their staff right away and been like, we have to stop this, instead of just like, here is a really sound plan that we have thought through and we've sort of tested in our minds. And so I just want to say how important that was to do, and that sometimes it can be really hard to wait and then go. It's that same stop and then go, which is kind of what you guys did. But I think that was a huge part of why things are working so well for you now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think having such a successful weekend and going into the clean break today, our staff morale is so high because they saw the success that we had time to do training with all of them about the clean break. And I think that they truly believe this can work. And that's obviously key in making it work. So really, really proud of our team and really excited to take on phase 3 of the plan, which is where we're at right now. So I'm sure we'll have more lessons by the end of this, but right now we're just feeling super optimistic.
Yeah. Sarah, please get it to, and Melissa, I know you're on the call, the 150 for 150 promotion. It took the Friends of Dallas Animal Services and its staff and city communications and your marketing team internal. That was amazing. It was nice to see the Dallas community jump on board to help DAS. And I know that's exactly what you needed, but I was watching from my lawn chair, and yes, I may or may not have been talking to Melissa about 200 times throughout the course of the weekend on it, but man, it was really nice to see. And again, that you guys, what you're doing and navigating through all of this. So,
Ed, can I say one more thing about the thing that we did? The other thing that we've been doing while they were getting ready, we made a choice for them not to test every dog because we wanted them to devote all of their energy to like getting this plan together. And we could already tell, we tested enough to know that it was there. And what we did for them, it's a sort of a contrast, is we started testing dogs coming in to see if any of them were positive for flu. Because if most of the dogs that were coming in were positive for flu, then we knew this wouldn't work, right? But they're not. And so that's what makes it really exciting and seem more possible that that it might work.
And so, Heather, I happen to know who your boss is. He's a real jerk face and he's real demanding and everything. So as far as lessons learned, because I know that you have been told that we can't close every other week here to deal with this. So what lessons learned, good and bad, throughout this situation?
Yes, several. First and foremost, canine influenza is out there. So knowing this, we are certainly more cautious when clearing our URI cases to move forward. I definitely would say, as it's been mentioned already on this call, asking for help. Dr. Newbury and her team have been absolutely amazing. But also, too, we relied heavily on our fosters. They really stepped up to keep the dogs that were not exposed, to keep them not exposed and in their homes and safe. We have since worked towards, we've developed a capacity-based disaster plan, which includes regular walkthroughs of our population that ideally will alert us to this type of situation before it gets completely out of control. We're also implementing a disaster communication plan, which is utilizing our internal messaging system to post any plan updates in writing. So this way we can ensure everyone across the organization receives the same message. And then we are creating a training as well for staff and volunteers to help to recognize the first signs of illness and steps to follow as soon as symptoms are noticed.
Let's just say that jerk face boss of yours is very happy with the plans moving forward. Melissa Weber, I think that were you going to chime in here?
I did want to chime in on the lessons learned. I just wanted to give, I know you touched on it, the 150 for 150, but incentivizing fosters. I know that there were some feelings about that, but that drove traffic to the shelter. We did a lot of adoptions, not just fosters. And it was for the fosters and rescue, and just the positive messaging, really the community came out. But I think that it's an emerging trend to incentivize those fosters. So I wanted to shout out for that.
Well, awesome. I know we are right up on the time. Ariel, do we have time for any questions or?
Yes. Maybe one more. Allison just messaged me, was like, we need to wrap up, but just one more question. Dr. Newbury, there was a question in the chat around where are we seeing this in the country, or if there's a map so that people can see where this is spread to or is currently active. Oh, Dr. Newbury, you're on mute.
When you look at the maps, there are some maps around, but it can be really confusing because sometimes there'll be like just one case reported. And with what I've told you so far, like if we see just one case, do you think that we think it's flu? Like probably it's not. We've never seen just one case be flu. And so what you really want to do is have this great communication in your community, like have communication with your veterinary clinics, have communication with your doggy daycare facilities and all of the shelters. And if you're seeing it, then that's when you know that you need to respond. The other thing to remember is like, it's not common. We haven't seen much flu for a really long time. And it's come in a few places. There was a little outbreak in Los Angeles. Before that, there was an outbreak in Oakland, but we haven't seen, it's not as though it's consistently spreading all over the country. This outbreak, we think, has probably spread in the Southeast. But have it on your list of things that you're looking for, especially if you see unusual amount of respiratory disease. So distemper should be on your list when you're seeing unusual severity of respiratory disease, and flu should be on your list if you're seeing unusual amount of respiratory disease.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I know that we are out of time today, but we would love to continue the conversation on Maddie's Pet Forum. And Ed, close us out.
Yes, well, thank you. Shocking that Ed Jamison hosted talk goes a couple minutes long. I know that is very surprising, but I do appreciate all the people. We had a lot of people remain on this call here till the end. Again, we know the fight that everyone is fighting out there. It's tough. Things get even tougher around the holiday times. To Mary's point at the beginning, take care of yourselves, take care of your friends, your family, keep an eye out. Things are tough. There's a lot of good out there in the world, but there's also a lot of things that are just really, really difficult right now. And also know you've got some 250 of your friends here on this call that you can reach out to at any given time. So everyone have a wonderful, wonderful new year. We look forward to seeing everybody in 23. To our panelists today, Dr. Newbury, Heather, Sarah, Melissa, thank you all so much. I think that this was very informative, and we will be looking forward to the next call. All right, everybody, take care.